The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
No one goes to Hank's for his spreadsheets. They go for a darn good pizza. Lately, though, the shop's been quiet, so Hank decides to bring back the $1 slice. He asks Copilot in Microsoft Excel to look at his sales and costs and help him see if he can afford it. Copilot shows Hank where the money's going and which little extras make the dollar slice work. Now Hank has a line out the door. Hank makes the pizza, Copilot handles the spreadsheets. Learn more at m365copilot.com/work.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Paxton was running a little bit ahead here, but a little bit ahead. And then when Donald Trump showed up, it changed everything. Now, if you go back to the primary results, Cornyn actually narrowly won more votes in the primary, but there was a third person in the race, a guy named Wesley Hunt. And obviously, those Wesley Hunt voters didn't want to vote for Cornyn, and most of those obviously have gone to Paxton. But look, the bottom line is this. If Donald Trump wants you to be the nominee of the Republican Party for virtually any office, he can will it into existence. And that has happened again tonight in Texas. There's also an attorney general campaign going on underneath this. I don't think we've called it yet, but there's a strong undercurrent of who's for Trump and who isn't in that race. And it looks like the more Trump-aligned candidate is going to win down there as well. So, we're learning this lesson over and over again. Indiana, Louisiana, Kentucky, where I live, and now Texas, over and over again, we're learning. If Donald Trump wants you to have the party's nomination, the voters look at that and say, we trust the president's judgment and we'll give it to you.
Yes, my friends, big election results out at Tejas last night. Welcome to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour, fastest hour in American media. This is the midway point during the week. We have today, ladies and gentlemen, a royal proclamation. After the elections in Kentucky, Princess Diana was able to join us. She will be with us tomorrow. Today, however, as we review the election results and in anticipation of her appearance tomorrow, Princess Diana has issued this. I have it in my hand. It says, Royal Proclamation regarding primary night in Texasness. And, yes, from Her Highness. And this is what Princess Diana has laid out in her Royal Proclamation. Biggest loser of the night was John Thune. Rhinos sacrifice their own rhinos in order to thwart President Donald Trump's agenda. They refused to pass the SAVE Act, even though they knew that it meant the end of John Cornyn. And Princess Diana has talked about a deal that President Trump had offered the Senate, that Ken Paxton would drop out of the race if they would just get the SAVE Act passed. They refused to do it. Cornyn is gone. She will elaborate on that, I'm sure, tomorrow if we ask her. The second point in the Royal Proclamation from Princess Diana, under John Thune, Cornyn was trounced by Ken Paxton by almost 30 points, the biggest primary defeat of a U.S. senator in almost 50 years. The second Senate rhino to bite the dust in 10 days. Senator Bill Cassidy, Republican Louisiana, came in third in his runoff. The next point of the Ness Proclamation. Rhino cleanout in progress by the MAGA base. Gone. Cornyn, Cassidy, Tom Tillis, and Mitch McConnell retiring. So the rhino cleanout of the Senate is in progress. Cornyn, Cassidy, Tom Tillis, and with Mitch McConnell retiring. The next point in this royal proclamation, all of the conventional wisdom analysis is wrong. The mainstream media is in mourning for Cornyn. By the way, I have evidence of that. Claiming that the GOP is giving up safe seats for the general in November. Guess the seats weren't so safe, eh? Oh, I love that. The next point, money matters, but it isn't the final word. Paxton was outspent 10-1. $100 million. And Paxton was outspent 10-1. Nothing can stop an energized MAGA base. Then Our Highness gives a prediction for the midterms. GOP will keep the majorities in both House and Senate. Paxton will blow out James Weirdo Tallarico by double digits. That's a... And this final point, which is a really profound point, not that they all aren't, from Princess Diana, Trump is reversing the historical model. Instead of becoming a lame duck president, his political power is growing. And that is really interesting. Thus endeth the proclamation from Princess Diana. You can see the mourning for Cornyn. I pointed out yesterday, Washington Post, read an article from the Washington Post, and it was so flowery over Cornyn. And it's like, when do you ever read these flowery articles about Republicans? It's only when someone is running against them that they truly hate. And they hate Paxton. The Hill today. Senator John Cornyn became the latest casualty in President Trump's revenge tour. That's what they point this to. Paxton is projected to garner about 64% of the vote, with more than 95% of the vote reported in. The state's attorney general, who secured the last-minute endorsement, has been bedeviled by controversies, defeated John Cornyn just days after Trump's endorsees also ousted detractors, Bill Cassidy, Thomas Massie, in their respective primaries. While Trump had another good night, Republicans are now staring down a treacherous Senate race in the Lone Star State that is sure to divert resources away from other key elections this fall. The nonpartisan election handicapper Cook Political Report has already shifted its rating toward Democrats after Paxton's victory, although the GOP is still favored to win in November. Now, just analyze that sentence for 1 minute. Hours afterwards, the Cook Political Report, they shifted it toward Democrats, but Republicans are still expected to win. Does that make sense to you at all? Yeah. Yeah, okay. In fact, let me stop at that point from the Hill article. I may rejoin it and just play something else from two Democrats. One, Ron Brownstein, the other, Paul Begala from CNN. Here is Ron Brownstein. I haven't seen him in a while. This guy, cut number 3. It's a quick 7 seconds of Ron Brownstein on CNN.
Tallarico today can be more easily pigeonholed as a cultural extremist or liberal than the Beto of 2018. Mm-hmm.
This guy can be more pigeonholed than Beto O'Rourke, is what he's saying back in 2018. And Beto O'Rourke, what is it? You remember the Beto races? Beto was going to help turn Texas blue. Beto O'Rourke. Yeah, Beto O'Rourke is every man's man. He's the everyman. Beto O'Rourke identifies with the downtrodden. People love him in Texas. Beto this, Beto that. The Democrats spent millions and millions. People from all over, Democrats from all over the country were sending millions of dollars to Texas to support Beto O'Rourke, not once, but twice, and he failed. Here is Paul Begala Clinton hack and CNN contributor, I think he's a CNN contributor, cut for Paul Begala on the race in Texas.
Let me start with you. Who would have been a stronger challenger to the Democrat Tallarico? Would it have been Paxton or Cornyn?
Well, Cornyn would have been a stronger candidate. There's no question. First, he's fundamentally a decent man. And I don't know Attorney General Paxton, but to know him apparently is to hate him. Most people think he's a pretty loathsome guy. Cornyn just got swamped. He got crushed. This is, I think, the last gasp of the cult of personality. President Trump has a really firm grasp on that MAGA base. But as he tightens that grip, he's alienating all the people in the center.
So Donald Trump is winning. His endorsements, even down ballot, are winning. And according to Paul Begala, this is the last gasp of Donald Trump. They're slipping through the fingers. The more you tighten the fingers, the more they will slip through. Yes. The more you tighten your fist. That's right. The more you tighten your fist, the more they will slip through. That's out of Star Wars, in case you... Thank you, TJ, for the right quote there. Yeah. So Trump is getting weaker as he gets stronger, is the analysis from Paul Begala. Sean Spicer, our friend Sean Spicer, had great... This is cut 5. Sean Spicer actually responding to some of this that's been going on with this business, with people surprised that Ken Paxton won.
I was actually shocked at the number of media folks that led their broadcast this morning by saying a huge upset in Texas. You watch the huddle, that wasn't a huge upset. That was predicted. And, we talked about the margin of victory. So I got to be honest with you. This is an indictment, as far as I'm concerned, on anyone who thought that was going to be close. That just tells you how bad your sources are. This was, I think that Paxton was going to win it regardless. The Trump endorsement just shows you how powerful it is. Go down ballot, by the way. You mentioned this also, Rachel, that Chip Roy, the attorney general race there, he also lost. Every MAGA endorsed candidate won last night in Texas, and we keep seeing this pattern. And this is good as gold. When the president endorses you in a primary, that's worth, a crazy amount. And I don't know that you can overcome it in almost any circumstance. Now it's growing more and more strong, which is just fascinating. Here we are in a second term, and President Trump's power over the party is growing, not waning.
Boom. Now, last up, Scott Jennings, cut 2. And this is what we talked about before. Tallarico is popular. But
I don't disagree. It's going to be an expensive race.
Texas.
I think money will be spent by both sides. And Tallarico being popular among donors in California and New York and Massachusetts is never going to wash off the weirdness of the gender thing, of the meat thing, of the God is non-binary, of the Bible actually, endorses abortion. All of these things, wherever you are on the issues, who talks like that? No Texan that you know actually speaks these things out loud, other than Paul. I guess tonight he's latching on, but no other Texan speaks this way. Paxton, he'll speak like a normal person. He'll have positions that are center right.
But if he's talking about affordability, to Paul's point,
he'll have center right.
If he's talking about affordability, to Paul's point, is that something that could be more effective with voters
will talk
that are
about
worried
affordability
about that?
when he talks about cutting taxes, rolling back regulations, and creating jobs and making energy prices low. That's what he'll talk about.
So, we're going to head off to a break, ladies and gentlemen. That's the recap on Texas until tomorrow when Princess Diana joins us. And thank you, Your Highness, for the royal proclamation today. We'll be right back, folks, on the way.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
My friends, one of the greatest word salads from a Democrat I have heard. I don't know whether this clip is old or new, but it's new to me. I only saw it today. Mondani was asked on CNN about Ken Griffin, who he has, just gone after for being rich. And the word salad that pours out of this guy's mouth, I think Kamala could take lessons from. Cut 9, here's New York. There was a big protest about Mondani yesterday in New York. A lot of people showed up to protest his reign already. Here's Mandani.
And you talk about housing. You have met with a bunch of CEOs in the last several weeks after you announced that what's been described as a pied-à-terre tax on second homes of the city's wealthiest. You put out that ad, obviously, singling out the announcement that singled out the Citadel CEO, Ken Griffin. He later called that video, quote, creepy and weird. I know that your office and that you've reached out to him. Have you heard back from Ken Griffin?
Have you heard back?
We've reached out to make it clear that I'm willing to meet with any and all business leaders across the city. And I think that's important because as the mayor of the city, I'm looking to ensure that I meet with anyone who is a part of this city's not just economy, but also our future. And what we've seen, whether it be Ken Griffin, whether it be Jamie Dimon, whether it be David Solomon, so many other business leaders across the city, is people who are creating jobs in the city and even at their level of employment whose workforce still face the pressures of an affordability crisis. What? Because as you know, in New York City, you can be making six figures and you're still going to blink when you realize you have to pay $20,000 a year for childcare for a single child in this city. And so we are looking forward to partnering with anyone and anyone to deliver on a vision that will take care of everyone across these 5 boroughs.
So have you heard back from him, or you have not?
Not as yet, but I'm going to continue to have these meetings to make it clear what our vision actually is for the city.
See, Kamala, that's the way you do a word salad. You put the guy's name in there twice, you talk around it, you don't answer the question until she pressed him again. After all that, blah, 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 child care, blah, 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 blah. We'll talk to anybody and anybody. Have you talked to him yet? Oh, no. He just could have said, no, we haven't talked with him yet. Instead, we got a masterful word salad. Kamala, take lessons from this guy. Don't go away, folks. We got so much more.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden, Snerdley with you here. Okay. I don't know whether you have you seen all the films of the teen takeovers in Chicago this week? You had like these teenagers on rampage, just pouring through the streets. People jumping across, damaging cars, acts of vandalism, looting. These teen takeovers have been afflicting a lot of cities in the country. And Brandon Johnson was asked about it. This is one of the responses that Brandon Johnson makes. Cut 10, mayor of Chicago, in response to all the teen takeovers that are happening.
We believe that we can arrest our way towards safety. We're wrong. We ask police officers to do too much. At some point, adults have to work hard to help raise their children. And that's what we're calling for in this moment.
But you got to put some muscle behind it.
Absolutely.
This is Fox coverage.
To say
of
that
it.
you have to have adults stepping up when you have an entire
and this is an
generation
alderman, a Democrat alderman in
shows
Chicago.
Just how disconnected you are from reality. And what we need to do is to wake up parents. And yes, we can't cite them for the actions of their children if they are contributing to their delinquency. We can force them to get family counseling to learn how to be better parents, because ultimately that should be our goal, because we cannot rely on sacrificing our law enforcement officers simply because our children do not have any sense of values. They're being told that this is their culture. This is not their culture. This isn't the culture of our city. We are better than this, and yet the mayor and police leadership continue to talk tough while doing absolutely nothing about it.
Yes, the point is, look, first of all, I don't think that Brandon Johnson is all wrong about this. Parents, we would have never been allowed to do some of this stuff that these kids are doing, and our parents would want to know, where are you? And what time are you going to be home? And where are you? And you better tell us the truth, not lie. But at the same time, this idea that we cannot arrest our way, it's a continued litany from him. He was asked, this is a CBS News report, about the teen takeovers by the local CBS news station in Chicago. Cut 11, this is what Brandon Johnson, this is the report that CBS did.
That's not appropriate. We're not talking about mob actions. I didn't say that. Hold on a second, okay? Respectfully. These large gatherings, just hold on a second, y'all. I promise you, we have time to talk. It's important that we speak of these dynamics in an appropriate way. This is not to obfuscate what is actually taking place.
This was the scene near Roosevelt and Canal Sunday night. Groups looted a convenience store. More than 36 teenagers were arrested, along with a 12-year-old and at least one 20-year-old. Store owners say it was the second such incident in that area in just the past few weeks. And today, Mayor Johnson commended Chicago police for the way they handled it.
To the best of their ability, I believe that they attempted to engage with our young people, with community partners, giving as much warning as they possibly could. And, unfortunately, arrests, were made.
Unfortunately, arrests were made? What is unfortunate about that? But he doesn't like the way reporters, in particular, they call them a mob. We can't talk about, we can't call it a mob action. Well, yeah, these kids were out in a mob. That's exactly what they were doing. That's not appropriate language to use about our children who are just rampaging and looting businesses. He's a curious guy to me. I mean, some of what he says, I actually hear and understand what he's saying, and part of me agrees with some of what he says. But then the other part is just so left field. We can't call a mob demonstration a mob because what? We're going to hurt the mobsters' feelings? The teenage mob? We're going to hurt the teenage mob's feelings if we say that they're out in a mob? Anyway. All right, we had Texas. We've been to New York. We're going to go back to New York. We're in Chicago. New York. This is Kathy Hochul, cut 14, the governor of New York, talking about illegal immigration, and Tom Homan has been talking about it too, but this is the governoress of New York State, Kathy Hochul.
You met with Tom Homan earlier this year, as I understand, and in response to some of the provisions in this soon-to-be signed budget, in an interview with the Washington Examiner where he said he's working on a plan when he was asked whether New York could see any sort of crackdown. And I wonder, have you heard from Homan recently at all? And if not, what is your message to him?
My message is do what President Trump said. President Trump told me in a room full of governors that he'll only have a surge of ICE in New York if I, as Governor Kathy Hochul, ask him to do it. And I said that request is never coming. I can handle law enforcement. We've got NYPD. I have state police. We have all the resources we need to keep our streets safe. People that are going about working in pizzerias or in home health care aides or working in construction or contributing to society, creating jobs, who have been here 20, 30 years, they're here. They're part of our family. And I don't think that they should be intimidated by ICE agents coming in with masks.
President Trump cited some of his immigration efforts when he was here in New York recently, saying you should watch yourself in the race for governor this year. What is your relationship with the Trump administration or President Trump right now?
Well, first of all, I will never be intimidated by anyone, president on down. Now, I have tried to have a productive relationship when it comes to ways that we can work to help New York State. For example, let's redo Penn Station. I'll work with the president on that. I'll work on bringing new energy sources like nuclear. I need federal government help to help us drive our innovation economy. So there are areas where we can work together. But you threaten me, that doesn't work well for me.
You know, she also responded to the new rule that was announced by the Department of Homeland Security that to apply for a green card, you'd have to do so from outside of the country. And she told me she was concerned, one, that it would separate people that are married, potentially send one person to another country, but also that she believes it would cause the United States to lose a generation or two of innovators and people that she believes have been welcome in New York for a long time.
Yeah. Here's what she's worried about, like every other Democrat is worried about. They're worried illegal immigrants will leave. And if more illegal immigrants leave, they will have fewer congressional seats in Congress. That is what this is all about. It's not about concern for the illegal immigrants. It's about political concerns for themselves, I believe. Anyway, Tom Homan, who she cited, Cut 13 was on with Laura Ingraham, and this is what Tom Homan had to say.
Healthcare and not fighting.
Do you believe America deserved 9/11?
Donald Trump has started them for the last 3 weeks. No,
do you
of course
believe?
I don't. That's ridiculous. First of all,
I don't know where we got that from. That's totally the wrong cut. That's nothing that's on our even roster today. Where the hell did that come from? We'll have to bypass Tom Homan where we figure out that UFO cut. Something just flew in that was unidentified. Anyway, let's go to Mark Wayne.
1984,
there we
strikes
go.
Never work. We're not going to change what we do because someone goes on a hunger strike. As a matter of fact, if it gets bad enough and the physicians feel like they're putting themselves in extreme danger, medical danger, then we'll force feed them. We'll get a court order and force feed them. Hunger strikes do not work. So they can put themselves in a position where they're not eating, but it's not going to cause them to be released. We are going to continue to arrest people. We'll continue to detain people. As far as complaining about ICE contract facilities, well, guess what? We're building our own warehouse facilities. We will have the federally owned detention facilities by the thousands of beds. So look for the future. And I've said from day one, we need to own more of these facilities when we operate them on federal land, and then that way we're not dealing with all this crap from the local politicians and the state and the governors, because this is a federal facility on federal land. That's the direction we need to go to, and that's the direction we're heading in.
I love that. And he was talking, I guess, about New Jersey, which is right next door. Now, this is something that I've heard before, and I want to see action from DHS. I want to see action. DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen was on Fox as well. And he talked about these sanctuary cities, like these protests that's still going on in New Jersey and New York. These protests against ICE. And this is what DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen says will be or could be the response.
House today, Sean. And I said, if they're going to not allow us to go out and arrest the worst of the worst, and then when we call for assistance at the facilities, that the street, it belongs to the city. If it belonged to us, we would take care of it, but it belongs to the city, and they're barricading our employees from coming in and out of the facility, then why are we processing international flights into the airport there? And we are currently, which we're not initiating yet, but we're currently drawing up plans to say, listen, in these sanctuary cities where the local radical left Democrats aren't allowing us to do our job and enforce federal laws, then we shouldn't be processing international flights into their cities either, because they don't want us to enforce immigration, but they want us to process immigration at their facilities. Nothing about that makes sense to me.
Let me tell you something.
Folks, this would be lawsuit heaven the day that it were announced. Number one, there would be so many lawsuits springing up. But can you imagine if JFK in New York, if Newark Airport, all of a sudden, if the administration says, you know what, you guys don't want to obey immigration law, so we are not going to process international flights because you won't obey the law. And so no customs at New York. No international flights will be processed at JFK International Airport. No international flights will come in at Newark International Airport. I would love to see the federal government do this. This would be amazing. And I hope that these are not just empty words. I want to see this happen. If these people keep playing their hardball and with immigration and not obeying federal law, fine. Lift their ability to have international flights come into their sanctuary cities. Make them truly sanctuary. No international flights allowed in. And let's see how long it would take for them to start changing some tunes. Fastest hour in American media. It's fast. We have got the clip of the day coming up next. No, we're not going to play the clip of the day that we had the past 2 days. You've heard it enough. That man that did that thing with those people that were unalive. That horrible thing that he did with them. We're moving on to other things. James Golden, Snerdley. Clip of the day on the way.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome, my friends. It is time for a clip of the day. I'm looking at the clock. I have time to talk about one other thing before we get to the clip of the day. And that is that the Czech Republic is prepared to help protect the freedom of navigation on the Strait of Hormuz. They are aligning closely with the Trump administration on security, NATO, Israel. Czech Foreign Minister Petar McKenna told Fox Digital News in an interview. Also, I read a story today that said Somaliland, not to be confused with Somalia. Somaliland is trying to get the United States interested in using their deep water ports. They have deep water ports, and they say that they can help reduce some of the effects of what is happening in the Strait of Hormuz. So one way or another, we should see whether it goes. Also, another story I didn't have time to get to today. I have this story, by the way, from Somaliland. Iran is said to be deeply threatened by the small African breakaway state, Somaliland, because of the potential for U.S., Israel, and Western powers to use its deep water ports and its air base. And that move could severely disrupt Iran's plan to use Yemen to attack Red Sea shipping. So interesting moves being made over there. A lot happening. Okay, it is time for the clip of the day. None other than Supplehead, James Carville, and his latest rant.
I want you to look at this photo on Drudge in a headline. And I want you to look at it with me. And I want us to just think together how much we hate the mother. Yeah, we hate him. And it's a refreshing but genuine visceral hatred we have. And we want him to know that. And the last thing that we should want, and the last thing I want anybody to die. Okay, that's no. I don't want him just to be alive this November. I want him to be cognizant, because I want him to know how much the American people hate his guts. And if he goes and throws a number on us, we won't know. He'll be gone. If he's just some babbling, well, he's a babbling, incoherent idiot now, but I think he does understand what he's up against, and I think he understands defeat and humiliation quite well. And we have to do everything we can to be sure that he is not just defeated, that he is humiliated. That he knows how much this country hates him for what he has done to this country.
James Carville, a.k.a. Serpent Head, with his latest vile rant. We're going to leave you today, my friends, with a heavenly birthday for Ramsey Lewis. American jazz composer, pianist, radio personality. In 1965, his version of The In Crowd went to number 5. And what a great album that was. In 1972, Wade in the Water Now, Ramsey Lewis recorded over 80 albums. I have many of them in my home catalog. He was just an amazing, prolific musician, just great. Passed away in 2022. His most well-known hit came with Earth, Wind, and Fire. Ramsey Lewis with Earth, Wind, and Fire in the back. Sun Goddess. May God bless, protect each and every single one of you, families, your loved ones. Love and gratitude, my friends, for your being here with me, allowing me to be with you. God willing, back tomorrow for the Thursday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Princess Diana is scheduled to join us tomorrow. You'll want to be here. Until then, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?